What it do, y'all? In today's video, I want to tell you how I got rid of overthinking. Now, if you're impatient and you don't want to watch the entire video, then the short answer is action. But I do suggest that you watch the entire thing so you can get a feel for why action was my remedy. Why it was the remedy to me getting rid of this overthinking. Now, a little backstory on me. My entire life, I've always been an overthinker. Always, no matter what, I was constantly thinking. My mind, the gears were always turning, no matter what. If you and me were to have a conversation back then, you can guarantee almost 9 times out of 10 that I was in my head. Right? I was either thinking about what you just said, I was thinking about maybe what I was gonna say, or maybe some shit that happened before, or maybe some shit that I'm gonna do, but I was never fully here. I was never fully present with whoever I was talking to, and the times that I was extremely rare. Right? Anytime that I was by myself, doing something by myself. Let's say I was watching TV, maybe doing some homework, maybe reading a book, playing a video game, doing something alone. Even then, my mind was still constantly turning, where it's like I could never do something 100%. I could never be 100% present with what I was doing, right? And I remember it got to the point where it was so bad that I was struggling to make friends. I was struggling to have people close to me in my life, because you can't really make a connection if you're always stuck in your head. If you're always thinking about some shit and you're never actually listening to what the other person is saying, you fail to make a connection with them, right? Your relationship will suffer because of that. And that's what happened with me. All my relationships were suffering. And the only time that I felt like I wasn't in my head, I wasn't overthinking about some shit, is when I played basketball, right? Anytime that I was playing basketball, it's almost as if I was free. It's like I was very natural. I was fully present. It's like I knew what move I had to do. I knew who I had to pass it to. I knew how to pass it. I knew how to shoot. I knew how to do everything, because it was like, it was just such a second, there's a word for it. It was a second nature type thing, right? It was something that came very natural because I was moving. There was action involved. Sure, there were times where I would maybe overthink a pass or overthink a shot, but I quickly realized, like, while I was doing the action, that anytime that I was overthinking in those little moments, it never panned out right? The pass never led to my teammate scoring, or maybe me trying to guard someone never actually led to me stealing the ball, or me blocking them, or me stopping them from scoring because I was too stuck in my head. Or if I'm trying to shoot and I'm over here trying to think too hard on, like, okay, how am I gonna put the form? How am I gonna set up? How high am I gonna jump? How much power am I gonna throw into this? The more that I thought about it, the harder it was, and the more I fucked up. So I learned real quick while playing basketball that the less that I thought about it, the better the outcome, right? And somewhere along the line, I stopped playing basketball, and I stopped playing it because I wanted to lift weights. I wanted to look better to attract more women. And like I said in the previous videos, I regret this shit, right? Because you're never gonna be happy chasing women. You're never gonna get what you want from chasing women. Yeah, you might get some ass, but that's it, right? If you chase what you really love, if you chase what makes you happy, it's gonna be a different life for you, right? But bringing it back, aside from all that shit, I remember it got to a point where my relationships were suffering. Right? I couldn't have relationships with people because I was constantly stuck in my head thinking about something. Like, how are you gonna connect with someone if you're not fully there listening to what they're saying? Right? The way that you connect is by really listening and interacting with the person. But if you're stuck in your head thinking about some shit and you're never fully listening to what this person is saying, you're failing to make that connection, and your relationship will suffer. And I remember this literally happened for years, maybe until like 10th or 11th grade. And at that point, I started realizing, yo, like, I have an issue here. I'm constantly in my head. I'm constantly thinking, like, I'm not able to make these connections with people. And it was around that time that I stopped playing basketball and I was lifting weights. So it was a stage in my life where the overthinking was starting to become excessive again. And then I started realizing, okay, when I play basketball, the less I tried, the less I thought about something, and the more I just did, the better the outcome. So at that point, my goal was to talk to more women. So I was in high school, and what I would do is I would literally see a girl, and instead of overthinking, I would just go and talk. Right? At first, it was terrible. Like, the conversations that I would have was disgusting. Like, I would choke up and just, I don't even want to go there because it was mad cringy. It was terrible. Right? Anyone can relate to this, because when you're extremely nervous, when you're extremely stuck in your head and you're doing something, you're really stepping out of your comfort zone, it's not really you. Right? You tend to choke up, you tend to say things you wouldn't say, do things you wouldn't do. And I remember in those moments, at first, it was really hard for me. It was hard for me to talk to women. It was hard for me to be able to make those connections. But the more I did it, the more it's like my mind started to calm down. I stopped thinking so damn much. And when I would see a girl, I would just go and start talking to her about whatever it is. And because my mind wasn't thinking, because I wasn't overthinking, and I was just fully present, capable of listening to what this chick had to say, I was capable of making the connection and developing what people refer to as game. All right, now this video isn't about game, but more so about how I got over this overthinking shit, right? Now fast forward a few years later, got out of high school, went into college, got out of college. I wasn't awake as I am now. I can't tell you that I was fully conscious of my actions and what I was doing. So it's like I would go in and out, where I would experience certain things, where I would feel the freedom, and then I would go back to overthinking. Feel the freedom, go back to overthinking. And it wasn't until, I want to say, a few months ago, okay, not a few months ago, I want to say almost an entire year ago, my fiance and I, we split. All right, we went our separate ways. I went to this mode where I was just kind of like focusing on my own life, myself, and just doing all these things, and spent a lot of time alone. And in that time, I got really stuck in my head, really overthinking things. And it took a second before I could step out again. It took a second before I could start making connections again with people. And it all came back down to the same shit that I did back in high school, where I realized, okay, in basketball, the less I tried, the less I thought about something, the better the outcome, right? So I remember I was at the supermarket, I saw this girl, and I was like, you know what, fuck it. And I went and I started talking to her, and it was kind of awkward at first, but the more I talked to her, like, my mind calmed down. And then I started doing that, and then I started going to the next girl, to the next girl, to the next girl. Then I just started talking to random people, just having conversations again. Be like, oh, hey, how you doing? Not even thinking about it, just going straight into it, right? And the less I thought about it, the more my mind was calm. And whenever I was at my house alone and I would start to overthink, I would remember, okay, action, basketball. The less I thought about something, the better the outcome. So whatever it is that I was thinking about, I would repeat to myself, fuck it, and then carry on to do some kind of action, right? Whether it be do the action that's what it is that I'm thinking about, or whether it be maybe getting some shit like this, throwing it up in the air, just focusing on something, or just doing something where you're putting in action. When you do that, you're causing the energy that's going up to your head to be dispersed through your body. I know it sounds kind of weird, but just bear with me for a second, right? The reason that I feel that a lot of people, we have this issue with overthinking is because we have an excessive amount of energy. All right? When you have this excessive amount of energy, if you're not using it, right? If you're not in action using this energy with your body, what ends up happening is that your mind begins to use this excess of energy. And your mind, when it begins to think more and more and more and more, it's using all this energy. If you sit down and you just spend the entire day thinking, you will be more tired than if you spent the entire day working and moving. All right? Because the mind will literally use way more energy than the body. And I feel very strongly that when we have this issue of overthinking, it's because we have an excess of energy that we are not using. We live very sedentary lives, right? If you ever talk to someone who's very athletic, very fit, that they're constantly doing something, it's not very often that you have a hard time maybe interacting with them or having a conversation with them, because they're more capable of being present. They may not realize that they're being present, but they're more capable of being present because they're using their energy versus their mind saying, oh fuck, we have to use the energy, and then them beginning to overthink. All right, but that's pretty much it, guys. Action is how I got rid of my overthinking. Understand that I feel strongly that we do overthink because of an excess of energy, right? So if you can use that energy, then you allow your mind to be at peace. Right, I hope this video helped you in one way, shape, or form. If you like the video, if you like the content, you want to go even deeper with this shit, consider becoming a Patreon. I'm gonna leave a link in the description box down below. And with this being said, remember y'all that the time is now.